Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the mental health and physical activity Q&A here today, the fourth live Q&A on the Clic forum. I'm joined here today with Emily and Scott, who I'll let introduce themselves quickly in a few minutes. But just quickly before we kick off, if anyone is interested in the previous Q&As, there's three that have already happened on money advice and mental health, adjusting to the new normal, the normal now that we're in at the moment with current restrictions, and BAME mental health as well. And they're available on the Clic website. And similarly, after this one's finished, this will be available on there as well if you want to watch it back once it's finished. So as I said, I'm Barry Lloyd. I'm from Rethink Mental Illness, and I'm the physical activity program manager there. And I'm responsible for setting up physical activity in groups to help people through peer support and physical activity programs to help them with their mental health and activity levels. So that's a bit about me. Emily, would you like to introduce yourself next and tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I am Emily. I am an athlete and a coach. I have had a long journey with my mental health. Definitely not been a linear journey. Discovering fitness for me was a pinnacle turning point. For me, lots of my mental health issues were surrounded on eating disorders. I was diagnosed with autism about 4 or 5 years ago now, so quite a late diagnosis, and at the same time with PTSD. So I've been to a lot of different places in my head, and I can hopefully resonate with a lot of other people and offer some advice on how turning to fitness and what I can actually do, and how failing in my fitness and growing and learning from that has helped me build my mental health into more kind of a stable area. So that's a bit about me.
Okay, thanks for that. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. And Scott, if you want to just introduce yourself.
Yeah, so Scott Britton, I founded a functional fitness charity movement called Battle Cancer around 4 years ago. Also head up what we call the Move Forward program, where we give functional fitness both financial support and then actual support in terms of getting people post-cancer treatment, but we also link in with 5 weeks of mental health referral support. So people come in, they get free classes and they get support as in a community-based setting. Worked in the police for 9 years in serious crime, worked in surveillance, and then as a detective sergeant. Particular touch points at the front line of mental health. Been on the scene of probably close to 50 to 100 suicides, dealt with mental health crises, and also on a board level in terms of local communities and council interventions, sat and advised on panels in relation to children and older people in terms of mental health. So most of my stuff's been from a professional standpoint and now linking in fitness-wise.
Great, thanks both. So loads of experience there, both personal and through sort of community and professional work as well. So we'll kick off shortly. If anyone watching wants to ask a question, there's a chat box there to the side of the video stream. So do feel free to pop your questions in, and we'll do our best to get through as many as we can. And then yeah, let's kick off. We've got one already here from. TOC. I used to be really active, going to the gym or running at least 4 times a week, but since the lockdown, I'm struggling to find the motivation. So do you have any advice for the individual there? Do you want to start, Emily?
Yeah. So I think lockdown really made us start to look inside ourselves, because we were kind of like trapped obviously where we were, and it very much heightened any self-doubt we had about ourselves and maybe any issues we were already struggling with. Because when we're going out and about in our daily lives, going to the gym, going on our runs, able to go out, we can get away from those thoughts, whereas in lockdown we had to kind of sit with them. So for me, the motivation element of finding what drove you to go and do those things in the first place, and instead of not motivating yourself and beating yourself up for not doing them, but finding motivation in the praise beyond that. And it's a really hard one, isn't it? Because we really beat ourselves up when we're not motivated. But also it's such a transient thing, and you're able to do a lot of things when you don't feel motivation. And I guess that comes with being disciplined with yourself and making promises to yourself as well, saying, you know, I'm not feeling motivated to go and do this today, but I know that when I get back, the sensation of having gone and done that is going to feel so good. And maybe journaling that down, so kind of record your emotions like before. Like I'm a big one for a journal. I journal every single day, every morning, every evening. And so maybe try and reflect on times when you did feel motivated to go and do it, and see if you can try and to challenge some of those thought processes, I guess. Sorry, that was a bit of a rubbish answer.
Yeah, that's good. I like that journaling. I don't do that. I've not do that, but I think I agree with you on that. I think it might really help with, like you say, having a goal and planning towards something and trying to hold yourself to account a bit more. I think having, sorry, I was just going to say, I think maybe having a friend or colleague or family member that you're accountable to as well, and try setting goals together to work out can also help each other. Do you have anything to add there, Scott, on motivation?
No, you just took what I was going to say, to be honest. I was going to say, in all honesty, it's about having an accountability for each other. And we're a big supporter of team-based exercise in both Move Forward and everything we do. It's very difficult when you feel that you're burdening something completely alone. And motivation is an incredibly personal thing and will come and ebb and flow depending on what you've seen the day before, how you're feeling. And my two tips are always find something in terms of whether it works for you. You know, Rocky ran up those steps in Philadelphia with Eye of the Tiger behind him because the music got him motivated and feeling. And sometimes people could stick in onto YouTube, you know, fitness motivation, exercise motivation, and whether you can actually kind of get why it makes you motivated or not, but seeing some images, seeing some epic moments, that might just get you out the door. But I also think in terms of a team, we're often much better as humans at pushing ourselves for somebody else as opposed to for ourselves. So either setting a challenge as a group and trying to aim to do something together and having that drive of being accountable for somebody else and then being accountable for you and cheering you on. Or if you don't have somebody that wants to do it, finding your own cheerleader. So I recently wrote a little article on this of lots of people will have somebody who wants you to get back into fitness and get motivated. So employ them as your cheerleader. They don't have to do it with you, but they can be the one who kind of shakes a pom-pom at the side and gives you that extra reward when you're doing it. So yeah, don't be afraid to kind of outsource that motivation. It's very difficult to get it internally.
I think that's great. There's some great points there. And like you say, that outsourcing, having somebody checking in to see if you've done what you maybe said you were going to do and stuff like that can really help hold you to account with things. And team, like you say, team-based things, but it doesn't have to be a formal team. It could be an informal family member or just, you know, a friend and you saying, let's do our steps for the whole week, achieve our daily step count for the whole week, and you know, just move and check in on each other later. So I think the key points you've both mentioned there are holding yourselves to account, having a plan, and maybe working with somebody else or a team. So thanks for those. They're great. I suppose I should have set the scene a bit earlier with the first question and say why is exercising or moving good for our mental health? Do you have any thoughts on that before we move on to the questions coming in? Go for it first this time. Sorry, Emily.
No, go Scott, go for it, it's fine.
Have you found your personally or what have you found through your work and stuff of why it's good to move more for your mental health?
So for me, there's always been common factors in terms of how people are feeling, especially when it comes into the levels of depression and people feeling depressed in various states, that you often feel like you're not winning. And that you don't often feel you have much value or worth. And that's a common theme, that your mind can take you down that path, you know, regardless of what position you're in. And doing small amounts of exercise, what I really believe in is creating little wins. So I think even if you just go out and you run for 10 minutes, you've had a little win for the day and you actually start to achieve. And quite often when you're in a spiral where your mind is feeling like you can't do any good, you're not valuable, you're not got any worth, the things that you start achieving, those achievements add up and add up and add up, and can slowly start to assist all the other work that you'll do to help your mind. I mean, the physical benefits in terms of chemical reactions in your body are very well documented, but I just think in terms of mental health, to start turning that tide and giving yourself some praise and reward for doing something and overcoming something can certainly go a long way to kind of helping you change that mindset and come through the other side.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
Do you want to build on that at all, Emily?
I was going to mention more. I see Scott gave such a concise, a full concise answer there as well. I was just going to mention more along the lines of the endorphins that you get, and you start to make a connection between what's created that very, that slight lift in how you feel and how you're feeling. The more you do it, the brain makes those connections, and neurons that wire together fire together. So if you go out for that 10-minute run and you get that little lift, your brain is going to make that connection. If you think, oh, I feel good, I went for a run, it's going to start to build those connections. And that's what is, so troubling about mental health, is once it starts, it's just allowed to spiral again. Neurons that wire together fire together. So if you let it go down that path and you let it kind of sit, it's going to get worse, but you can control it back, and you can, through your actions and through just physical activity. And it doesn't have to be massive. Everyone's like, oh God, I'm never going to get fit, I can never run a marathon. It's like, I don't think I can run a marathon at all. I think that's it's going to take me a few days, I'll probably walk it. But yeah, like little bits and little and often, and start to be proud of those small little things that you do, because just the hardest part is getting out the door. As soon as you've got your shoes on, you're out the door, you're there. That's the hardest bloody bit. So it is, but as soon as you're done, you're finished, you're like, you're never going to regret doing a workout or having a run or doing any form of fitness. You're never going to regret that, ever. Like, I don't think I've ever, well, there's 1 or 2 workouts in my time, but most people go, I'm really glad I did that. So
yeah. No, you've took the word out of my mouth on a couple of things there. I was thinking last night about back to training. Now the clocks have gone back and it's dark. It's getting yourself down there. You never regret actually going down to a session or like that. And I think you sort of preempted a question we've had in from Hillary there as well about the little and often. And she asks, is walking as good as running? Because she's unable to do running due to having a stroke. And I think, just to jump in on that one, I think whatever you can do, whatever movement you can do, 10 minutes, 5 minutes in the house, out the front door, whatever it is for you that works, and just doing that as much as you can. So I think you've almost answered that. But if you have anything more to add to that, either of you, for Hillary?
It depends on your goals. If your goal is you want to be able to run non-stop for 30 minutes, then running is going to be a better option than walking. But if you want to improve on your mental health, your physical well-being through movement, then walking's fantastic. And especially if, obviously it's not so nice when you're out in the rain, but grab your binoculars, put a flask of coffee in your pocket, download an app about birds. Don't underestimate bird spotting when you're on a walk. It's fantastic. Like a bird spotting app on your phone, and turn it into something really exploratory as well, and just fill your cup up with everything around you. Walking is I used to really not enjoy walking at all before lockdown, and I was always I had to run everywhere. I found walking so boring because it was so slow. But we started going on these really long walks, and my step count was through the roof, my skin was starting to look better, I was starting to feel better and lighter in myself, and I can feel myself now hankering for a walk. So never underestimate the power of your walks, Hillary. Walking is champion.
Absolutely.
Shush, Emily.
Anything there, Scott?
I would just say, in terms of what we've done at Battle Cancer, is we've worked with people at our events. So we have all kinds of adaptations for people, and people who are triple amputees. We work with people who are literally just coming out of radiotherapy. And there's a gentleman, Mark, who's one of the most kind of inspiring, motivating people for me, who after his heart surgery was saying, like, I want to get ready to work out again. And we just had him, and he's a coach now, but he would literally just do a squat on his bed. So he would sit up and stand down and sit up and stand down. And to him, that was as difficult as an elite weightlifter doing a heavy squat because of the situation that he was in. And I think people often look at other people around them and go, oh, well, they can do this, so I should be able to do this, this, and this. And like, you know, Hillary said there, she suffered a stroke. So for her, actually going out and walking, that's the same as me and Emily doing a marathon. You know, there's no difference in that setup. So the mental fortitude that she shows to go out and walk is completely relative to her situation. And I think anything in terms of that, it makes her an athlete. And people laugh when we call them athletes. You know, I call so many people an athlete because an athlete is overcoming something to do something in regardless of their situation. And that's exactly what Hillary's been doing. So for me, if her walking is better than running a sub 2 hour marathon, and I think that she should reward and be celebrating the fact that she gets herself out and walks, not be worrying that she can't run.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. It's your own journeys, isn't it? And you know, your own goals. So definitely, Hillary, I hope that's answered your question there. And we've got another one here from Sydney, and she's asking, do we have any advice for clubs or coaches supporting members during COVID? So different local areas around the country now having different restrictions. I suppose you guys would have had loads of adaptations in the past when the lockdown first hit. So you got any advice for club members or coaches during lockdown? Emily?
Scott's probably a better one to take
Okay.
some of this. I've not been training in a club so much. I've been very much in my back garden for most of this, so I haven't got much to say. Sorry.
Have you done any online stuff at all, or joined any sessions?
Yeah. So actually, now you mentioned, I took my kids coaching stuff online, and that was, you know, it was great for a long time. Keeping kids motivated on Zoom is another level. So I guess it's just trying to be as adaptable as possible, and everything is going online now. We're so lucky that this has happened in a time where technology is just flying, and that we've got access to things that allow us to still connect with people even though we're not near them. So just leaning into that, and there's so much free information out there, and it's just a case of reading the book and following the instructions essentially when it comes to a lot of online coaching and marketing and stuff.
Great. And Scott?
Yeah, so one of the things that we work with, so I'm also an ambassador for Movember. I do a lot of work in terms of trying to upskill fitness professionals. So we run different days for PTs, coaches, fitness professionals. And one of those things I think that is often missed, Zoom classes are great, checking in with people, you can provide programming, all kinds of practical things in terms of keeping them fit. I think one of the biggest things that we need to be aware of, if you are a coach, if you run a club, if you run a gym, is you basically need to become responsible for spotting signs in the members and the people that you're aware of. And I think my best advice would be to upskill on the early indicative signs of somebody potentially suffering from something in regards to mental health. I think then the other element of that is to give yourself like a Swiss Army knife toolkit of referral networks. I think to be able to do that, from simple questions to people, and finding your own way, your own communication of doing that, but the really ingrained relationship that a sports coach, a sports club, if you run a club or a gym, or you're a fitness professional, I think that you have such a nuanced ability to read people's emotions. Have they not been logging on for sessions a good couple of weeks in a row? When they're there, do they have their screen off, but they used to have their screen on? The kind of communication that they send back, is it starting to change? I think to upskill ourselves during this time is to make the fitness professionals and sport professionals effectively act as an army to help stop this huge pandemic of mental health. And I think that's something that my biggest suggestion to anyone would be to just upskill yourself on spotting the early signs of somebody potentially suffering, and then just getting a big old list of referral networks of charities and phenomenal places that you can you can send that person to. And I think that way we'll really help each other through the onslaught of mental health that's happened during COVID.
Great, thank you. Some really good tips there from you both. Thanks for those. I think just to add to that slightly, there's also you know, a lot of people don't have access to those virtual means, and logging in on Zoom and things like that. So not forgetting those as well. Maybe giving them a call instead of a video call because they can't access and things like that, and just checking in on them, and things like that, just to make sure that we're not forgetting anyone, leaving anyone behind. But some great tips there from you both as well. We've had another one in from Ramses, who says, what's better, eating well or exercising more? So I'll come to Scott first on this one.
I would say it's a really difficult question. I think it's very difficult to kind of take one or the other. I think it's very dependent on yourself and where you are. For me, eating well and addressing food is incredibly complex in terms of mental health, your particular history and emotion tied to food. So I always say that starting that exercise journey can be the easiest win from the beginning. So if we're talking just from getting that first step into doing something, I would say food takes quite a long time to address, to realize why you attach yourself to certain foods and certain others, and why you eat the way that you eat. Whereas you can start to get yourself moving, and like Emily said before, getting those connections of, you know, of your endorphins firing, of getting your body and listening to your body and feeling your body, and you can effectively start to train out a slightly bad diet, and then address that diet and food later on. But that's just my personal opinion from working with people. You kind of have to tackle diet and mental health towards food slightly differently than you do with physical exercise. So for me, if to just get you on that train, I would say let's just get you started doing some basic moving first.
Thank you. And Emily?
Yeah, again, it is such a difficult one because both things are so emotive. And the thing is with eating, I think it can be such an overwhelming and complex subject if it's something you've never delved into. You know, apparently, you know, keto's better, but then I've been told that, you know, this is better for you, but then I've been told that keto is this, and I've been told that this is the best. But what about intermittent fasting? And there's so much rubbish being thrown out there to people, and unfortunately companies benefiting off of people's lack of knowledge in certain areas, and it just causes so much confusion. You can make a massive impact by eating well. If you think about training, it's probably going to be, and this isn't going against what Scott said at all, it's just adding like a caveat to it, I suppose, is most people are eating 3 times a day. So you've got 3 opportunities there to make a massive impact on your life and your health. Whereas, you know, you're training once a day. So then that's 4 opportunities essentially in a day, not once a day, every day, take a rest day. There's, you know, 4 opportunities there potentially in one day where you can make a massive impact, but that can be so overwhelming. So it is so difficult. So I'd always say it's easier to not do something than to do something. So it's easier to abstain from having a second box of chips, I suppose it was, because I'll always recommend having one if you need one, and then it is to go for a run. But as Scott was saying, once you start to make the connection with the physical activity and your endorphins and your body feeling good, sometimes you just get that instant switch on in your head of, I've just done all this for my body, I now want to fuel it with something really nice to complement that physical effort that I've just put in. So I'm going to eat all those lovely vitamins and minerals and that nutritious stuff to just lift up the benefit of that physical fitness higher. So I don't think there's a correct answer for this. I don't think you can say one is more important than the other on the whole, but I would always recommend fueling your body for purpose.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a balance of both, really. You know, I think it's fine to have a cheat day. I certainly do. Probably too many. But you know, if you're thinking of what you're eating, it's, you know, there's lots of resources out there like Change for Life on the NHS website if that's something you want to improve. And they talk about having a colourful plate and 5 a day and things like that. It can really help with your mood. You'll be getting the nutrients that you need, and obviously looking after your insides. But that's not to take away from moving as well. I think getting your 10, 20, 30 minutes a day at least is definitely key for a good mood and improving that mental health aspect as well. Okay, thanks guys. Questions flying in here. We've got one from Talk Again Next, who asks, what activities can people do during lockdown that don't cost anything? So obviously, yeah, now I suppose a lot of people have sort of money concerns, possibly, or out of work maybe, and looking, instead of a traditional gym or leisure centre, to find ways to move at a lower cost. Emily, would you like to go?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's so hard, isn't it? Because again, not everybody lives in the same sort of place. So some people are in like kind of high up flats or apartments. Some people have got houses with no gardens. Some people have got massive gardens. So it's all going to be very dependent on, you know, your individual circumstances. One thing everyone can do is put on a Mac, put on a pair of shoes and go for a walk, like we said earlier, or if they feel like it, go for the run. Well, there's loads of challenges that people are running online and in magazines and newspapers and things at the moment, kind of like a 30-day challenge. You know, on this day we want you to do this many squats or this many burpees or things like that. And these are usually things that can be done in your front room. You might have to move your coffee table out the way. I know I certainly would, and a few plants. But there's things that can be done pretty much in your bedroom using items around your house. You know, when they say your challenge today is 50 burpees, 50 squats and 50 kettlebell swings, people have been, I say people, some of the kids that I was coaching and some people I know, you know, a tub of mayonnaise. You can buy mayonnaise in tubs. I know it's probably not the most ideal thing, but it's cheaper. Or a tin of paint, you know, that becomes your kettlebell, your load. So there's lots of very creative things that are being put out there by some really great people on the internet. If you don't have access to that kind of technology, again, there are things going in papers as well. That I had some interesting bits in there the other day, and that's a really cheap newspaper to get hold of. I think it's something like 70p or something like that. So I don't know if Scott's got anything to add to that. That's kind of my go-to, would be a lot of Instagram lives, basically.
Yeah, do you want to, Scott, did you have anything set up in lockdown or anything that was low cost, or you come across anything?
Yeah, I think, to be fair, that right now that the kind of fitness industry has changed. You would used to have to pay to get access to workouts and routines. The vast amount of free fitness opportunities out there. I know both me and Emily are here, you know, thanks to My Protein, and My Protein have a free app which has workouts on there. It has videos to do. You can do it alongside the same people, which obviously, you know, free to download. I think, again, I run because I have to, in a competition element. I don't personally enjoy running. It's not something that I enjoy. It's very much I just do it because I have to. So for me, you know, we talk about just trying to hit 10, 20 minutes. There's a lot of things that you can do to try and kind of burpees, push-ups, sit-ups, squats, lunges. There's lots of bodyweight movements that have been created over the past hundreds of years. You know, typing in, looking at very old school military workouts, there's things that don't require equipment. And again, like Emily said, you know, you can get a heavy backpack. You can use all sorts and manner of things around the house to use as weights. And, you know, you look at some places around the world, they, you know, unfortunately they don't have the finances. And you look at places like Africa and Russia, and they'll use concrete, they'll use metal, they'll use all manner of things to be able to, you know, safely kind of work out. But I think we can do a lot of stuff in our homes now, and I would say this has been the best time for getting free resources. Yeah, just literally type in free workout. No matter what you do, just doing something is going to be the win. So I think just grab it, try it. If you don't like it, move on to the next thing, and just keep going until you find something you like.
Definitely, yeah, I definitely echo that. I think finding something that you enjoy can really help as well, and trying different things till you find that one thing that works for you. And just people who, like, thinking back to Hillary a bit earlier on, people with a variety of conditions who might not be looking to do as intense a workout, there are loads of resources out there for you as well. So there's the campaign that we're part of is the We Are Undefeatable campaign, and that's for people with various long-term conditions. They have a host of different resources, like a 5-in-5 workout selector, and it could be as simple as standing and sitting on your chair, raising your arms and different things like that, just around the home. So it doesn't have to be super intense burpees and things like that. That you know, it could be suited to your needs as well. And yeah, that's great. Thank you both. We've got one here, just checking I haven't missed any. I think it's H Brill next. I'd love to go to the gym, but I'm really out of shape and I'm afraid of what people may say. Do you have any advice on that?
So
Go on, Emily.
I can, in a different kind of way, I can resonate with this from where I was and where I am now. And I think what it comes down to is it's really hard to get your head around this, but you can guarantee that almost every other person in that gym that you're going to is thinking exactly the same thing as you. And they are so worried about what other people are thinking of them, they're not thinking anything about you. And whether that's they're thinking about, oh, does that person think I look fit enough? Does that person think I look buff enough? Or does that person think that I look really out of shape? Does that person think that I'm too fat to be on the treadmill? Everyone's going to be worrying about what everyone else is thinking of them. And also, you're never going to impress every single person in the room. Like, every single person is going to have something to say. So it's a case of, you need to do what's going to make you happy and be the best for you anyway. Because at the end of the day, you are the singular most important person in that room at that time to you, and you should be. And it's so hard, isn't it, that constant like extrinsic validation that we search for as human beings. But I think the biggest thing I will say is that everyone in there is going to be thinking the same thing and worrying so much about what they look like. They're not going to be having the capacity to worry about someone else and what they look like. I know I certainly don't. I'm always so wrapped up in my own insecurities that I'm not looking at that person over there. And if I am, I'm probably looking at them going, I wish I could do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Always. I'm like, oh my God, they look so strong. I wish I was them. So
What about you, Scott?
Pardon?
Sorry, thank you for those. If you had anything to say.
Yeah, I think I have to kind of be very, very honest and blunt with this. And I think it depends where you go. I think to be very realistic and having experienced this, that there is certain gym environments that not necessarily that the other person is judging you, but just from the experience, it can be very difficult and daunting. I think very large commercial gyms where you pay your entry, you come in, you're on your own, maybe you've got your earphones in and you kind of go from machine to machine. They have a place and they're fantastic for certain people. However, the feeling and the vibes in there. So like, I've competed at an elite level in different sports, and then I walk into a commercial gym and people look at me, and it's due to that setting. And I kind of think, okay, if I was somebody who was just starting my journey and I felt I was overweight, or I felt I couldn't, perform to what somebody else expects, I feel that this would make it 10 times more difficult. I would say in that position, a class-based introduction is the best. And there's a couple of reasons why I say this, because you have somebody leading it. So you have a fitness professional at the front who will be leading it and guiding you. So when you come in, you can basically just switch off. You can take any mindset or worries and you can kind of just empty your brain and let that person guide you. Also, in a group with other people, one, you can hide. Like, let's be honest, sometimes people want to hide a little bit. And in group exercise, you can position yourself where you hide a little bit, you're still moving with everybody, and your confidence slowly increases with every single time that you go. But you will start to find that in a group, you will all want each other to do well. And that's why I would really suggest that anybody who feels like in that particular position where they feel like they're not very fit, or maybe they're slightly overweight, start your journey with a class. Like, give yourself every single chance to succeed. And it's very difficult to build up that like real good shield of going into a place completely on your own. And us as humans, we don't do that anyway. You wouldn't walk into a restaurant and suddenly start walking into the kitchen and saying, hey, I'm going to be a chef. You have an induction, you have training, you work with another chef until you build yourself up to being a chef. And I really think that should be how people start their journey. And, if it's Zumba, if it's a dance class, if it's a Pilates, if it's anything where it's a group and you've got a professional at the front, you're going to really set yourself up with a chance of being feeling like you can carry on, because unfortunately there is some fitness environments that can be very, very daunting, and that's for everybody, including people like myself and Emily.
Yeah, great. I think you're both right. Sorry, Emily, you're going to add to that.
I was going to say, it's that tribe mentality, isn't it? Like, there's safety in numbers as well. And, you know, especially in the functional fitness scene, it's often so welcoming. And there's always going to be somebody else there who's been through what you've been through. So when it comes to feeling inspired and feeling less alone and like you can do this, there's probably somebody there who was where you were, you know, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and they can go, you know, I was there a couple of weeks ago, but you know, I'm here now, and it kind of gives you that, all right, cool, they can do it, I can do it. And again, like Scott said, those Globo gym settings, although they do have a purpose, they can be so isolating. And then you've got that overwhelming sensation of there's so many different things in there. It's like, where do I start? Like, what the hell is that machine? And what is that machine? I got shown that at my induction, but I don't. So you've got different layers of complexity, and I fully back the whole getting yourself into a class environment with, you know, a good instructor, and just
you and seeing which one feels the most welcoming or suitable to your needs. And just from personal experience, Scott, I definitely echo what you said about classes, and you, Emily, you said that often they are the most welcoming places, and they really can be. If you're in a class and you're all working out for your own individual goals, everyone supports each other, and if you can find that supportive environment, I think you'll really enjoy it. Brill. So I hope that's answered your question on that there. So yeah, I think that brings us pretty much to the end of our Q&A today. So thank you both for your time and taking the time out to join us and pass on your knowledge to the people joining us today. People watching at home, this will be available if you want to watch it back and you didn't get to scribble down some of those tips. You can watch it back. And the next Q&A on the subject of bereavement, if that is of interest to you, will be on Wednesday the 25th of November. So watch out for the information coming up on the Clic platform for that. Thanks, Emily, for your contributions. That was really good. Thanks so much. And to you, Scott. I hope you enjoy the rest of your days. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, guys.